Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. 1 year ago, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ran this Build Back Better ad, Jobs and Economic Recovery Agenda. Joe Biden believes we cannot build back better without a major mobilization of effort and resources to advance racial equity across the American economy. Let's see how Joe Biden's Build Back Better and racial equity plan is coming along a year later. Democratic states like California and New York have banned entry to restaurants by anyone who's not carrying a vaccine ID. This means that the majority of black people in New York and California are not allowed into restaurants anymore. Last October, Democrats said that requiring ID was racist because it was very difficult for people with darker skin to obtain an ID. And now many Democratic states require an ID to do the most basic things like eat in a restaurant. California and New York have become the largest apartheid states in the world. Most black people in California and New York are no longer allowed into restaurants, and it's also becoming extremely expensive for people to eat at home. Just last month, food prices were up more than 4.5%, which is an annual inflation rate of more than 50%. Many poor families are going to have a tremendous amount of difficulty feeding their children. Additionally, the price of oil is up 230% since last year's election. This means that poor people won't be able to afford to drive to work. But under Biden's executive order, they can't work anyway without a vaccine ID, which last year Democrats said was racist. Let's take a look now at why energy prices skyrocketed right after the election. Joe Biden promised to end the fossil fuels which billions of people around the world depend on for their day-to-day survival.
But kiddo, I want you to just take a look, okay? You don't have to agree, but I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate, okay?
His first week in office, Joe Biden, through executive order, halted and restricted oil and gas leases on federal lands and stopped construction of the Keystone Pipeline. And he redirected U.S. policy to import more oil from the Middle East and from Russia. Apparently, he believes that Russian oil produces fewer greenhouse gases when it's burned than American oil. And now, after choking off U.S. oil and gas production and exports, the White House is looking for ways to address the gas shortages which they created. They say they want to help Europe out by exporting more oil and gas, which was the whole point of the Keystone Pipeline, which they shut down. Right now, they say they want to increase U.S. oil and gas production and exports, but 3 weeks from now, they'll go to Glasgow and say the exact opposite. The Biden administration will go to the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference and brag about the fact that they shut down U.S. oil and gas production. The Biden administration is crushing the U.S. economy and hitting black people particularly hard. But there is a country which is benefiting tremendously from Biden administration actions, and that's Russia. As a result of the Biden administration shutting down new U.S. oil and gas production, the Russian economy has picked up tremendously. Russia is now selling to Europe the oil and gas which the United States should have been providing. Biden and Harris said they wanted to help out black people, but actually who they're helping out is Russia. They said they wanted to advance racial equity, but they've banned most black people from restaurants and from working. But Kamala Harris has a solution to the problem. She says, if you want to have Christmas gifts for your children, now is the time to start buying. She wants to help parents beat the supply chain crisis which her and Joe Biden created. Toto has been pointing out for the past 13 years that nothing Democrats or the press say has anything to do with their real agenda. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at RealClimateScience.com.